Laurie Muenz, presenting AE task order post-award process for design managers. So thanks for tuning in today. First page, we've got an agenda. We're going to go through the core roles and responsibilities, design management roles, invoices, CPARs, solicitation roles, PADS, the design process, and PCAS. All of these seem to have issues right now with our transition from PM world to DM world for some of these processes. On the core roles and responsibilities, I gave you the same slide we had in the pre-award that just reminded you of the nomination process so that it's all together. We've already been through that. So at this point, you are nominated as the core, your task order has been awarded, and we're now starting the post-award management. So the first thing you've got to do, or that you should do, you don't have to do anything, is set up your P drive folder in your project files. So you've probably seen when you get the standard folders, there is a core folder. It's the first folder on the drive. There are some things that should be put into that folder as the core. You should put that appointment letter that you got from your acquisitions rep that you signed saying, I'll be the core. That should be filed in there. You should put the awarded task order that they sent you in there for reference. If you have any questions about what did we buy, what are we getting, you've got the task order right there in that folder. And then we say put in the project template, which you may or may not be familiar with. Some other things then as you go, and I'll go through that next. Then as you pay invoices, if there's anything that you think might raise questions later, that you have any backup or anything you need to put, you just drop it in that file. If there's any letters that you send back and forth to the AE about performance, any emails, that type of thing, PDF them, stick them in that file. It's just a place to hold performance-related stuff that has to do with your role as a core. The address on the P drive I gave you under the CIBL miscellaneous. You probably can't read this from the back, but when we first started with this core role, there's a whole lot of stuff you're supposed to keep in a binder or keep someplace. Most of it we already have somewhere in our project files. So we developed what we called a template. You can pull this out of that folder and you just fill in the task order number, the project title, your name, the date you were assigned, and who the contract specialist is that's on that task order. And then down in here, you just edit as needed. So it tells me my appointment letter is right here in this folder. These are the items that you're supposed to have in a core folder. So we have identified where they are so that if they come in and audit you as the core, which it's a random thing, and they say, okay, Joseph, let's look at your core file. And they say, well, where are your invoices? They can look right here. Oh, invoices, I go to WAF and I pull up the history file. Because stuff's filed everywhere. So you don't have to assemble all of that stuff. And if something in here doesn't agree with the way you're going to be filing your project stuff, just update your template. Just say, I don't keep that in the correspondence folder, I keep that in working technical. Okay, fine, wherever you file it. This is just to help you keep track of all of the different things that a core is supposed to do. It really, there's nothing in here that's not part of your project. This is just pointing them to it. Okay? So you've set that up. You're now ready to start the project. So we've got a design kickoff. I think most of you have participated in those. Sorry, I just lost my folder. I guess I didn't get that in mine. All right. So it's all right, I can go from here. Design kickoff, you're going to invite your project manager. Your project architect is going to be part of that kickoff because this is on AE design. It's the same process we do for in-house design. You're just doing it with an AE, and you're the leader of the band, just like you are on an in-house project. So you're going to have a kickoff meeting with your PM, your client, your architect. Maybe it's your design CDW, your concept design at the same time. I don't know. It depends on how your project is laid out. But at that, one of the things you're going to establish is you're going to have your awarded task order that has the submittals. And let me just back up on that. A lot of times when we're putting together our statement of architect engineering services, our schedule says, I get my first meeting minutes, task order award plus 30 days. So now you know what the date of that task order is. So you really are establishing the schedule of the project. You may have told them, you're going to have 180 days from the date of the task order award. We're now fleshing out the schedule, and you're making sure your PM has the dates that we're going to get delivery of things. If it's a full design bid build, 35, 65, 95, those dates go into e-projects, and they're updating that schedule. So that then the solicitation schedule that comes beyond that is based on when you're really going to get your design deliveries. And your AE is the one that's buying into that. So you're setting the schedule, and then as the design manager, you're the one that is keeping track of, oh, I'm supposed to get my 35% next week. I better call and remind them, maybe. Depends on the AE you're working with. Some of them are great. You get it before you even think about it, that type of thing. So you're going to set the review schedule, and you're going to use whatever management tool you use to keep track of when things are coming and going. I mean, you don't have just one project. So, some of us write it on a hard calendar. Some of us put sticky notes. Some of us use their Outlook calendar. Whatever it takes for you to do that reminder that this is coming due. When a design submittal comes in, you guys are seasoned people. You know that a 35% submittal and 65, that the submittals are defined in our UFC, or FC, excuse me. So you know what you're supposed to receive. When you receive a submittal, and it's supposed to be, let's say it's supposed to be a design set of plans and specs, a project schedule, and a cost estimate. If you don't have the full submittal, you're the one that's going to say, reject, send me the full thing. Lots of times we'll hear, well, you'll get the cost estimate in 2 days. Go ahead and send out the design. Nope, not happening. Give me the full submittal. Now, sometimes the project, for fast tracking, you use your common sense. But it's our job when we receive the thing to say, this is complete and acceptable. If it's, you're the lead on the project and you're an architect by training, you probably want to open it and see, does this look complete? Should I send this to the design team? Kind of vet it for your specialty. And say, yeah, this looks good, I'll send it out. Rather than, I've been there, done that, distribute it out, and everybody goes, I can't evaluate this, I didn't get anything. So you kind of you're the front gate into the design team, because we don't want to waste our time. Our time is valuable. We don't want to set up doctor checks reviews and distribute stuff, and then 2 weeks later when people start looking at it, they decide it's not a good submittal, because it happens that way. So you're going to make sure that the deliverables are received. We are doing quality assurance, which is a little bit different than if we were doing like a peer review. We have paid a design firm to give us a design product. So we are doing the high-level quality assurance and putting those comments in doctor checks. Our reviewers are on average given 4 hours to do that design review. Big project, of course, we have more hours, but we don't have 40 hours for a discipline to sit down and look through every calculation, everything. These are design professionals with licenses that are stamping the plans, that have the liability. So we're making sure that it agrees with what the Navy wants, basically. At the time you go through all of the design submittals and you close out all the doctor checks and you do all the design reviews and you say, okay, we've got our final design product, you're the one then that sends that to the PM, design release. Here's the design product, here you go. The project manager is the one that's getting the SAT-2 memo from the client. That's not a design manager role. There should not be any surprises. Your client, I know and that's why I'm mentioning it, because there's a lot of, no, that's not my job, that's your job. So, we got a lot of that going on. But we'll get there. I think the real message is, it shouldn't be a surprise to the client what's on the design drawings, because they should have been involved throughout the process. So this is really just a check from the PM who set up the scope, schedule, and budget, that what the design team is giving back to them and the cost estimate we got and the schedule we got is what the client said. We've had things that we've had disagreements on. So at that point in time, you release it to the PM. I mention AE liability just because some of these don't go as planned. Sometimes we got some issues. Generally, liability doesn't happen until we're actually in construction and we find out there's a design error. But most of you came out of design firms and you know we don't get anything for free. And you'll hear, oh, the architect made a mistake, so they have to pay to have it done. No, if it had been in the design from the beginning, we'd have paid for it. The liability part is they owe us the design fix, and if there's any tear out and redo, any true cost to the government, they pay for that. So I just put that in there as a reminder that they correct deficiencies in the design on their part. As you go along through this, you're going to be the one paying the invoices. This is probably new to you guys. Actually, we don't pay the invoices. I should correct that. We inspect invoices and we recommend payment. So we don't handle money. That's a contracting piece. What I gave you here is it's done through, you've probably heard of WAF. It's actually now called Procurement Integrated Enterprise Environment, PIEE. The address is still waf.eb.mil. It's a web-based program. It is a CAC card certificate login, so you don't have an ID and a password. If you've core nominated, you already know how to get there because it's the same system. So when a task order is awarded in acquisitions, they're going to set up who's going to be the person inspecting it and who's going to be the person paying it. So it's already set up in the system. So when ABC Architect submits an invoice for a task order, that task order is already linked to your name as the design manager that's going to inspect that invoice. And you'll get a system email. I think it's from WAF. I can't really remember, but you'll get a system email that says, contract number, invoice such and such has been submitted to WAF. And that's your clue of there's an invoice. I need to go into the system and inspect it and say yes or no. So when you get that notification, might come from upstairs from your procurement people, but somebody will let you know that there's an invoice for you to inspect. You don't have to be checking the system. So when you go into the system, this is the front screen. I just give you this as a reminder. You're going to go into the WAF payment side for this part. For the core nomination, you're going into the core tool. So different section of the same program. First screen you'll see once you go through the CAC sign-on, it has this little message in the center. User, government, documentation, lookup, exit. You're going to be over on the government side. When you hover over government, you're going to see field inspector or inspector. It's highlighted in the slides. You can see it up close. So you'll pick inspector, and then over here you're going to go to the inspection folder. So I give you that screenshot just to remind you when you have to do this, you'll have some step-by-step. When you click on that, and as you hover, it'll go away. So you have to be kind of quick to get over there and click. And then you'll get the inspection folder. It comes up already with the N69450. When you get that notice, it's going to say contract number N69450, 17D, blah, 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 or something like that, and an invoice number. You can just copy that contract number, and it goes right here in this contract number. It doesn't matter if you know what task order it is or not. You can just put your contract number in here and hit submit. I did that for just to show you a test case. So I put in this contract number 17DO100, and these are all the invoices that are sitting there waiting to be processed. So you should see the one that's your number, and you'll go over here to that invoice number and click on it. If you have a bunch of these, you'll come up with your own system for figuring out what contract is that, what project is that, how's that work? Because you give me a contract and an invoice number and tell me it's mine, I'm like, okay. So I'll just go in the system, plug that in, pull it up. What you see when it comes up is a header, a bunch of tabs up here. It's got the contract number, the delivery order. This is the invoice received date up here, which is important to you. This is where you actually recommend approval or whatever and sign it. But I still don't know what this project is or what I'm paying for. I know it's an invoice. It is not the final invoice, and they're billing me for $24,885, or they're billing the government 95 cents. That's all I can tell from this. So you're going to go to this miscellaneous info tab. And somebody else may have a better method, but this is how I do it. So go to the miscellaneous info tab, and you'll notice there's a view attachment in the center here. You're going to click on that, and it's going to bring you up the PDF of what the bill is. I don't think I did that on this because it wasn't mine. I don't have an actual bill. So what you'll see on that is it's going to tell you, this is Pensacola Runway Lighting Project. You go, oh yeah, that's my project. And it's going to probably have your name as the point of contact, maybe not. Sometimes it's going to come up and you go, that is not my project. And then you're going to say, respond to acquisition, or you're going to let somebody know, not my project, or you know, well, that was mine, but that transferred over to Joseph. So I just forward that announcement to Joseph and say, go in and inspect the invoice. Anybody can inspect anybody's invoice. You don't have to be the core on the thing. We can, I could have inspected every one of those, but I don't know anything about them, so why would I do that, But if you're out of the system and somebody calls you and says, there's an invoice here that needs to move on today, or we're going to get charged interest, and it's for the final design on such project, or this, that, or the other, good to go or not, you can give a verbal to somebody else to do it. When you see that attachment and you say, okay, I can pay this. Let's say that's the best case. Most of them, they're gonna be billing you for what they did 30 days ago. They're not gonna be billing in advance. We pay for what we've received. You're gonna just go into this screen right here and put a note. I gave you a generic example. This invoice agrees with the awarded task order schedule of deliverables. All deliverables submitted for payment have been received. If it's, this is for the design charrette, or the 35% submittal, or something that you want to detail, you can say, invoices for the 35% submittal. We've received it and reviewed it, it's good to go. We're moving on. We should pay for this. So you just give some sort of reason that shows, I've looked at it and it is acceptable for payment. I have also rejected them, and some of you have been involved in those. If they're billing me for the final site survey and geotech, and I happen to know my civil engineer has not accepted that, we're still negotiating back and forth to get that right, I'm going to reject it. And then you're going to put a note in here, this invoice does not agree with what I've received. I'm still waiting on whatever, and this cannot be paid. So you're going to put a note in here, and then you're going to go back to that header page, and if it's good to go, you're going to recommend approval. If it's not, you're going to recommend rejection. If you didn't put a note in there, it's going to tell you, you got to give me a reason, because this is going to systematically go back to the AE people, and they're going to go back to whoever said bill for this, and they're going to say they don't want to pay for it because of this, that, and the other. So it's not a big deal if you know what's going on with your project, but if it's engineering services that are being billed for, I would encourage you to follow up with whoever is on the technical receiving end of those to make sure that it really is ready for payment. Because once we've paid it, we've pretty much accepted it. I mean, we can still work out kinks, but we've said we owe you this money. So that's the thing. If it says final invoice up here with a yes, then one of the parts of that attachment should be a release of lien. I mentioned that to you because if you've never been in that world, that is at the end of they'll give you the billing, and if you see everything's at 100%, the next page of that billing should be a release of lien, where really generally it's the Navy point of contact is saying, release of lien, we've paid all our subs, there's no liability for the Navy. If they have checked yes here and not given you that release of liens, recommend rejection and put your note in there, no release of lien. I learned that the hard way out in private industry by paying an invoice and not knowing that we were supposed to have release of liens, and my company had to pay, my company had to pay an extra like $70,000. It was not a good day to be a young engineer. Okay, so the other thing I want to point out to you is this inspection date right here is not the date you're looking at it. It really relates to when the invoice was received. That's the inspection date, because that's the date that they're billing to. this will be an automatic, this would be today on the signature date, and then you click certificate signature. Once you've paid all the invoices, you've got the deliverables, now you get to evaluate the contractor. That's done in the CPAR system. You've probably heard about that. And you'll get a lot of emails on this when you're the core. They'll email you consistently, you've got this one coming up in 60 days. You've got this one coming up in 30 days. You're overdue with this one. You're overdue 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. The intent is to do it on time, but we get busy and that type of thing. So it's required for any task order over $35,000 that we do a CPARS. When the task order is awarded, you will be set up, if you're the core on the contract, you will be set up as the assessing official representative. And so you'll get the notices. It should be a summary of, if you're going to give them a good rating, they should know they're going to get a good rating. If you haven't said anything negative to them through the entire 6 to 9 months of the design process, this is not where you say, well, they really should have done this, 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 and this. If you haven't told them, that's not fair. It is a fair evaluation process. But it is also where we want to document issues that have come up along the job, because we want them to get better at it. It's communicate early and often. These slides came from acquisitions out of their presentation. They are talking about contractors, on-site personnel. We really are dealing more with the AE team. So we don't have as many issues as construction contracts, because they do CPARs also. But you don't wait until the end of the task order, the contract completion date. And this is where I was telling you, in your P drive folder, if you've got some sort of, you were 2 weeks late on this schedule submittal, and I need to keep this project on schedule because it's a mission tie-in, and you've sent them that warning level, you probably want to keep that in your file so that when the next one comes in, if they've made it up, you can send back a thanks for making up your schedule, and you can kind of document asked and answered. Or, gee, now we're a month behind. We used to be 2 weeks behind, now we're a month behind. How are you going to make up this time? Because I really have to have this on the date I said. That type of thing. And generally, it's a positive experience with our AEs. It's rare when it's a painful experience and you're pulling teeth to get them out, get them over. We have had those contracts, and we could get them again. If you are having issues with your AE, we are, over in my group, Raymond Rodriguez, as the keeper of the capacity on the AE contracts, we are having monthly phone calls with the AEs. Philip Dixon, our engineering director, is talking to their head person, just generalities, not project-specific things, but if we're consistently hearing from all of you, they're always late on their submittals. They are always asking for more time. They're never performing like they're supposed to. We're going to give them that high-level feedback and say, you guys need to fix this, or it's going to start showing up, that type of thing. Or you're doing a really good job. And it works both ways, because it's their opportunity to say, you know what, I sent it over to your design manager, and I'm waiting 2 to 3 weeks to get an answer, and that's really slowing us down. So we're looking at open dialogue with them. We're all one team. 60% of our work is done with AE firms. So they make or break, our interaction with them and our dependence on them makes or breaks our program. And CPARS is important because when we're issuing the next contracts and we're looking at who are we going to contract with, we pull those CPARS. That's a big part of it. When a firm wants to work for us and they've worked for the Army or they've worked for us before, that CPARS is whether they're going to move forward or not. So we want to be honest and fair. You'll note that if you're, and the CPAR system, I didn't put a lot of slides in here, but it's tabs. And so there's a tab on quality, there's a tab on schedule, there's a tab on cost, there's a tab on, can't remember the others, but there's 4 or 5 tabs that go through there. And you're going to rate each performance factor by, is it marginal, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, marginal, satisfactory, or exceptional or outstanding?
One of the two.
Yeah, one of those. At any rate, you're going to rate each tab. If you are giving all unsats, or to a majority of unsatisfactories and marginals, we are not going to be able to send that out to the AE until it's reviewed by the chief of contracts upstairs. So it's going to take some documentation. It has happened, but it's hard, I'll tell you that. If you've got, in the 5 tabs, you've got 2 marginals and 3 sats, it's going to go straight out. If it's more than 50% unsatisfactory or outstanding exceptional, either end of the scale, it's got to be reviewed upstairs. The normal process for just a vanilla review, where you write it up, you give good documentation for why you're given the ratings you give, you as the AOR is going to hit it at the end of your evaluation. You submit it to the assessing official. That assessing official right now is Raymond Rodriguez. He's going to see every CPARS. And when he says, okay, we're consistent, they all read kind of the same, he hits the button and it goes to the AE. The AE sees what we've written and they write back their response. If you've said, they were never on time, this, that, and the other, they may write back, well, we were never on time because we were always waiting on the base to give us information. Who knows? They're going to answer whatever they think they need to answer and give their side of the story. It's going to come back to us. It's going to come back to Raymond. He's going to look at it, and I think it comes to the contracting official at the same time if they've disputed it, and we're going to say, are we going to stick with these initial ratings with your discussion too? Are we going to stick with our initial, or have they told a side of the story that we need to modify? And at that point, it's going to be finalized with contracting to them, and that's the final process. So it is a give and take. It's not a, not a one-sided thing. The first time you have to do one, if you have any questions, you just come get somebody. I sat with Joseph a couple weeks ago to do one. We went through it. It is something that is, if you've got a 6 or 9 month duration on the task order, you're going to do it at the completion of the task order. If it's a big project and it's going to go on multi-years, once a year you're going to do one. You're going to do interim reviews. If you're having difficulty and you're not getting any place and you're not getting the design deliverable, you can always put in marginal CPARs to get their attention. You can put it in the system. Interim ones that are not final generally don't affect their contracting with other people because it's only final CPARs that are generally evaluated when we're choosing new contractors. But it's kind of like that, just that warning shot of, we got some real issues here, fix them please. They want to give us good service just like we want a good product. This gives you a little bit unsatisfactory, there we go. Unsatisfactory, marginal, satisfactory, very good, and exceptional. Must be the ratings. I didn't think we had very good anymore. This could be an out-of-date chart that Gary had in his, Gary Murphy gave me these slides. But when we don't give an overall rating anymore. When you're in the system is very well geared with giving you information on what does satisfactory mean, what does marginal mean, what does very good mean. When you select that as the rating, it gives you a drop-down definition that you can cut and paste over and document because they want to be consistent, just like our solicitation boards. I would suggest, because you're going to be submitting them to somebody that you don't work for, and if you're a civil, your civil chief is going to be getting the list of these are the outstanding CPARs. When you hit submit it, it says, do you want to see what your evaluation said? And I'm pretty sure the only answer you can say is yes. And it gives you a PDF of it. I would suggest you can save that PDF and just shoot it over to your boss with a copy to Raymond and say, I've just finished the CPARs, and here you go. And then they'll start getting, because eventually I believe the chiefs will be the ones reading the reviews. It won't all be coming through Raymond. But right now, they're just not up to speed on it. So we got to get them in the system. But that's a work in progress. Okay, so now you've evaluated it. We're through design. If design is all we bargained for, we've paid for it. We've done the evaluation. And now that project is going to go to solicitation. So when you get into solicitation, the PM leads the solicitation effort, the solicitation process. There's been a lot of debate going on about that. It's a PM responsibility. They are the ones that are setting it up with acquisition. They are the ones submitting the SAT-2 memo, getting the ATA from the client, and pushing it to acquisitions. You should be in the loop to know this project that you just bought from a designer is going to be put out for pricing. You need to let that design firm know this project you finished is going out for pricing, because when the PPIs come in, pre-proposal inquiries, when they come in, we're going to be giving them to the design team to answer. That is something that we bought with the design. If there's questions on their design for the contractor to be able to price it, that designer of record is going to be answering the questions. But it's not fair to them. You know, sometimes we have 3 to 6 months from when they last touched it to all of a sudden we got 400 questions. You know, so it's our job as the design manager, as the point of contact, to say, to call that person we've been working with to develop design, or shoot them an email and say, you know, this thing's going to hit the street April 26th. So I would anticipate that we're going to need PPI support, and it'll be through the bidder module and doctor checks and blah, blah, blah. So we want to advise them of the schedule. Sometimes your task order includes, on big projects, a solicitation support block. And that might be if you've engaged them to be at the contractor site visit. We used to do that. We don't do that much anymore because they can't answer any questions. But sometimes we have them actually present the design at a contractor solicitation support, a site visit. So you may have them engaged for solicitation support so that, you know, that's part of your task order. Just depends. But if you don't, and we're putting something out on the street, we want to get them involved. And we also, at that point in time, if you didn't pre-negotiate the PCAS for this project and now it's going to be awarded, and you're going to need the DOR on job to be there for construction, this is when you're going to write up your statement of work for PCAS services and price it out and send it to your PM to be able to start getting to have that in place. Because once we award this thing, this construction contract, then the clock is ticking to get it started and move forward. And we can't be waiting 90 days to negotiate PCAS with our architect when we knew it was coming. Does that make sense? All right, so you as the DM are going to be the one that is managing the design team PPI responses. Not all the PPI responses, not the ones with the client, not the ones with PWD, not all that stuff. That's your PM's role, you know. But you're going to have the ones that relate to the design. So once we get it awarded, now if you bought an RFP, or it's the same process whether you bought one from an AE or we created it in-house. The design manager is the lead for the design development. Until we get to design, build, design acceptance, you as the design manager are the lead for the effort. So if an AE provided it, you're going to have some sort of task order mod so that they are there and they're doing the work in the PCAS. There is a BMS about post-award design management. I want to point it out to you. Very defined roles. The next slide has a matrix of who does what. It seems to be some new information for a lot of us. But the thing to keep in mind is you are the core for the AE contract. And you're still the core for the AE PCAS effort. So that's your contract, and you're the one that's paying them for the PCAS services and inspecting invoices and overseeing that. But for the construction contract, the core on that contract is your construction manager. If it's a design build, that contractor is going to be sending that design information to your construction manager. They're going to be coordinating with you to get it over to you and for you to get it to the AE and do design reviews. We are in charge of, we're the lead on that, and we pretty much have the project hostage until we get design approval. They can't put a shovel in the ground unless there's an early start package. We are the ones, until we say the design is good, start construction, they're not doing anything. And so it is a time-consuming role. There is an information bulletin out there that this is post-award design management, and this is post-construction award support. I think that's the way it went. Post-award design support, maybe. PADS and PCAS, it's all after award. There's an information bulletin. I gave you the address that explains exactly what they are. This is the matrix straight from the BMS that shows, you'll see there's a PM, DM, here's your CM over here, in these various columns. Managing the design process, the lead, design manager. So, we're going to develop the design, submit the design, review the design. Approval of the final design and sending it to acquisitions to be part of the contract is a PM function. But we are the ones that are going to say, we've been through the design review, all the doctor check comments are closed, this is acceptable to move forward. So you're going to notify the PM. This design dated, whatever date it is that's stamped and sealed, is good to go. When you get into PCAS, which is after I have an approved design, which is the same whether it's design build or design bid build, now you're in construction. You've got possibly a task order if it was a full design job. Now you've awarded just a pure construction support mod to your AE task order, because you're going to want that designer to be the one reviewing shop drawings and submittals and making sure that everything's in accordance. Gave you the BMS. This one's really more talking about the role of the CM, the one on 1.5.5.1. And generally, your AE task order is going to conclude with them giving you the as-built. Sometimes we get that from, if it's a design bid build, the contractor is going to give the as-built, but the AE is probably going to review them before we say they're good to go. If it was a design bid build, they're going to get red lines in whatever format, could be CAD drawings, however it comes there, and it's up to them to give us our final package so that we can get those in our archives and we can distribute them to the base and all the people that are supposed to get them. So now you know the process, beginning to end, for an AE task order award management. Raymond Rodriguez is still our point of contact for AE task order questions, and Stephen Sparks for acquisition questions. Next month we're going to do design build pack training. If you've not been through that process, that'll be by Tom Tryon, our CI5, is going to give that. Who can talk about what the CM does, what the PM does, what the DM does. And that's all I have. So we can conclude this concludes our presentation.